everyone. This is an addendum, so to speak, to the first demo I did for exercise 2, drawing a plant in a pot. So I left off where I had done all the geometrics in the picture, and the geometrics just so happen in this image to be on the background and the middle ground. The table, the wall, and the pot were all done with geometric shapes. So now I'm going to do the organics, and I just want to draw a little and have you watch me draw. First, I noticed that the gradient inside the pot is probably wrong because I decide I'm conscious of the fact that the light is coming from the top, the light source is coming from the top left of the picture space. So if you look at the photo, the light is hitting it in the leaves in such a way that we know the light is coming from above. It's this direction, top left down on a slant. So this gradient is wrong. It looks to me like it's light over here in this inside the pot and dark on the other side. So I select the shape. It's on a layer that's not locked right now. And then I go to the gradient tool, which looks like a gradient, and I drag in the direction that I want the gradient to go. So if I go to gradient, I'll see the gradient, and it goes from left to right. I put it in left to right, so light to dark. So if I want it to go in the other direction, light to dark, I drag from here all the way down. So it's light to dark now in this direction. So that looks more, I want it to be light to dark in this direction. So I might, make a new gradient. If you wanted to, you could even make a new gradient. Anyway, now I'm gonna draw the plant. So just watch me do this. I'm gonna go to the layers and lock all the layers that I'm not drawing on. So I'm drawing on the top, the foreground layer. And I'm going to use my Wacom pen, and I'm drawing on a medium-sized tablet. And I will draw the roots for you. So the roots are kind of a gray color. And actually, because they're just so linear, I'm going to draw them with a line. So I'm going to the pencil tool, which is below the shaper tool. And I'm going to simply, now in this case, I'm using the photo for observation more than drawing on top. But if you wanted to trace more than draw, drawing is more sometimes from observation, sometimes it's more expressive to do it that way. But you can also trace. So if you trace, I'm going to show you how to do that. Turn off. You don't want to turn off layer 2 because that's where the photo is, and you want to sample for color. Turn off the background, turn off the middle ground, and let's see, turn on the photo, the photo underneath, and then you can just trace over this. And I'm going to make it eventually. So I made that line, and then hold command, and every tool becomes the selection tool when you hold command. So you can make sure that your stroke box is up, and you can sample that color, that grayish color. You have to go down to the layer to sample. So, oh no, you just go over to the photo, sorry about that. Go over to the photo to sample. So you want the eyedropper tool, and you can sample the color, and then you can give it a stroke that's big enough so that it's almost the size, maybe make it 4 points. And now I'm going to draw, I want the stroke. So go into the color palette and make sure, click on the stroke, and then make the stroke again 4 points. We're trying to switch the colors. So this color that you're using, you can switch with the little arrow, is the color that you sampled. You also might want to go into swatches and save that swatch, not new group. Save the swatch, just save that color. And so now you're drawing, you don't want it to fill, so say no fill. You're drawing with the color that you sampled, and you're making it a 4-point stroke. See if that's enough. So go to the pencil tool, and I'm going to use, whenever I start to draw, so it needs to be even bigger. There, something like that. So I went all the way up to, when I saw it, I was going up and clicking here. You can also go to the stroke palette, and it will let you decide, you know, how big your stroke should be. So then hold Command, and every tool becomes the last selection tool that you used if you hold Command, and click away. And I will draw another root and another root. Okay, so maybe you think that those are a little big now. You can shift click and select them as a group and change them to maybe, it was on 13. So for the stroke, you want to show options so you can see the weight, and maybe all these weights should be the same actually. So maybe you have to do them singly, and I'll make them a little skinnier. Okay, so those are the roots, and I'm finished now. If you want to see what it looks like with the pot turned on top of the pot, and with the pot underneath. So there's those roots. And then okay, so now I'm going to draw the plant. And this is just to let myself see what I drew. And then if you think that somehow the plant will get in the way of the roots, you can lock the roots. So I have my selection tool, hold shift so you can make a group. You can lock it as a group, and you can say group or object. If you do it as a group, you could put a blend in the whole group, for instance. But basically, you're trying to lock this group so that it doesn't move as you draw the leaves. Now I'm going to draw the leaves. And I'm not, let's see. Now I'm going to be using either the pencil tool to draw the leaves if you prefer, but I actually like the pen tool a lot because these are very smooth curves. So I'm going to be drawing with the pen tool, and you can watch me do that, this leaf. So now the pen tool allows me to pull curves. If I don't like something, I can just say undo, which is Command Z. Actually, I think I'm going to go in on this a bit, zoom in on it a bit. So I go to the zoom tool and just pull, and go back to the pen tool. The pen tool is very useful in Illustrator, but I think people have to get a little used to it. So it's really good if you try it and just practice it. So I'm pulling. Watch this. So you click. Now you're going in the same direction, so you don't have to go back to the point and change it. But you click and drag. Don't let go. Click and drag. Now here, this is this is almost a straight line. So all I have to do is click. Notice that I did change my direction here. So it's actually putting a big stroke on it. So I must just still have that, that color and the stroke. If you want to see what you're doing, you might go to color and choose black and make, of course, the stroke 1 point, not 9 points. That's what I was using for the roots. You could make it 1 point, or if you can't see 1 point, you can try 2. And now I'm going to the point that I left off at. So, which is that. So that's the change the angle, or change the anchor point, convert anchor point. That's what that means when you go back and you see that little angle. And I'm going to keep drawing here. This is another curve. So pull. If it doesn't let you pull, go Command Z. And I'm going right back, starting again. Click there because you might be changing the direction, and drag. And click and drag. Okay, now I'm going up. Actually, I think I'm just going to do this shape as one whole shape, just this part, because it's all the same color. So now you're making a point, a sharp, acute point. So you go back to the point you left off at, click down, and I'm closing my shape here. So I'm dragging, click and drag, and I've created a shape that then can be filled. So in order for you to fill it, you have to go back to the fill box over on the left-hand corner here in my tools. And I don't think I've sampled this color yet. So this is a closed shape now, but you want it to be active so the computer knows which shape you're trying to fill. And you could fill this with a gradient. I go back and I go back to my photo and take a look at it to reference the photo a little bit, take a look at that. So actually it looks like this part of the shape is a darker green and this part is lighter. So I could have done it as two separate shapes. And maybe I still have to do that. I'm gonna put a dark gradient and go to light here and see if that works. And you can be somewhat creative with this also. Whoops, that's my email. So sample the two colors. So I'm going to my eyedropper tool and I'm going to make some new swatches. So this one, okay. So say new swatch, go to the bottom of the swatches palette, plus new swatch, okay. And sample, new swatch, okay. So bottom of the swatches palette, new swatch, okay. And I will put a gradient in. I'll create a gradient of those two swatches and see if it works. So the first, the one I'm going from, I will be pulling, you could pull left to right. So this swatch is gonna go under the very end there of my gradient. And my other swatch that I created before is gonna go at the other end. So pull it right down and push it all the way to the left. And now you have your gradient. So let's see if I can use the gradient tool to pull across and how it looks. So it kind of, whoops, that's not my gradient there. Oh, you haven't, I had to save my gradient too. So save your gradient, new swatch. It's gonna say new gradient swatch, okay. And then go to the gradient tool and try this gradient out. So I'm gonna pull dark to light, something like that. Now I don't know why in this shape that I made, I should be on my foreground layer too, yep. And in this shape that I made that I can select here, try your gradient tool again. You can also bring, yeah. So you can play with it a little bit until you get it sort of how you like it. It's giving me this brown color that might be, yeah, this is as good as I can do it. It would have probably been better to do it as two separate shapes. I'll do another leaf now. Another thing you could try is to completely change the direction. Yeah, I think I like that better, but I don't like what's happening there. So that's a very odd thing that's happening at the bottom. It kind of turned brown. So let's see if you bring that out. So I bring my gradient out, move it around there. That's pretty good. So I will try another leaf and see if I can get a little bit more accurate. Let me do this one. Now this is obviously two shapes. So take your pen tool, and as I said, some of you might actually enjoy using the pencil more, it's up to you. But I like using the pen tool because I can get these beautiful, what they call Bezier shapes, Bezier curves. And I go back to the point I left off at and pull this big curve here, if you can see it's sort of pink, and then go back to the point I left off at, and I close my shape and pull the last curve that I need for that shape. And there's my color, but actually there's the gradient that went into it, because it thinks I want to put the gradient in it. But actually, this time I think I'm just going to choose a swatch. So I look at my leaf on the other side, and the shape that I'm doing right now is this one. So it's that light green color. So I'm simply going to say this is going to be all light green. So it's that color, and I want it to be, you know, now the shape underneath is a different color, and maybe it's enough of a different color that I have to sample again. So I sample, I'm gonna hold Command so that everything becomes, so that the eyedropper, which I was on, becomes the selection tool, and click away so that that shape that I just made is deselected. In fact, if you think it's gonna interfere with you're drawing next, and it probably will, you should lock it. So Object Lock, and then, whoops, no, it's Object Lock, go over to Selection, move to the right, cascade over to Selection. And so you lock the selection. So now I'm going to draw with the pen tool again. And I said I was going to sample that color first. It's sort of a gray-green. But remember that you're sampling not on the bottom layer, but on your photo that's not dimmed. So I'm sampling that color, and I'm going to say New Swatch. Okay, and I put it in here. It's a really dark color. And I'm going to draw. This is the last one I'll draw, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I turn off the other layers. So these are shapes that I'm making with the, right now I don't want it filled. I want to be able to see the shapes that I'm making. So go back here, and it kind of moves down like that. So that's a straight line. And then over, close the shape and make a curve. So that's my new shape. And now I do want to fill it, and I'm going to fill it with that color that I just created. Okay, so now click away, and I'm going to show you what I've drawn. So I've drawn the roots, and you could put another color in to show that there's a little shading on the roots if you want. And I've drawn 2 leaves, and I could adjust all of that if I wanted at the end. I mean, you could use the white selection tool to adjust it slightly with points. Anyway, let me turn on. So I'm going to turn on the other layers so you can see what I've drawn. And say Command 0, which fits the image in the window. And that's the beginning of drawing the organic shapes. Now, when I say adjust, notice that here, when I was drawing, I wasn't able to see perfectly what I was doing. So I'm gonna have to push this root up, and I'm going to have to pull this down. So how am I gonna do that? Well, I locked the shapes on the foreground. I didn't lock the layers, so I can just go Object, Unlock All. And then I'm going to use the white selection tool, as I said before. Click away from everything, and you can pull at specific points with the white selection tool to change exactly what you have. So, you know, you can either add points if you want with the pen tool. So for instance, if I wanted a point, I don't know, you can add points with the pen tool. This might not work quite so well, but I'm going to add a point just to show you. And I add a point here and maybe here. I can also try it with the curve of the whole thing. It gives me handles, and I could sort of move those around. but I'm changing what, with the white selection tool, what this leaf looks like. And I can also go to this shape, select the darker shape, and move those points. Remember, the white selection tool allows you to move by pulling at points. And here are the roots, and obviously maybe this root did go off the, I have to move over and see. Did it come off? No, it didn't. So this root, I want to come to about here. I decided it shouldn't go over the edge. So I take the white selection tool again, and I just push it up. We want the end point. I'm trying, let me go Command Z, Command Z. Okay, so I'm really looking for that shape. Yeah, and you can push at it until it's the way you want it with the white selection tool. So this one too seems to have gotten a little bit bigger than I wanted. So you can make it smaller. However you want it. So notice when you click on it, it shows the path down the middle of this wide stroke that I made. So anyway, that is the beginning of, obviously I have a lot more to draw in terms of the plant, but that's the beginning of the organic shapes. So I thought I should show you that as well. When you save this, save it as a PDF with layers. I need to see your layers. And if you make sure that you save it with layers, you can even go back and check. So I don't have to write you an email about it. That enables me to see that you did what I asked you to do, which is to make a background, middle ground, and foreground layer. Great. Thank you.